Details about the Minneapolis trans shooter they don't want you to know. Let's check it out. And welcome to Rob Schmitt tonight. As the broader media conceals the Minneapolis shooter was trans and kind of acts like they don't know the motive here, a critical revelation from his manifesto that was put online. Robin Westman regretted becoming transgender. The New York Post, translating part of that manifesto, was actually written in Russian. The biological male wrote, "I regret being trans. I wish I was a girl. I just know I cannot achieve that body with the technology we have today. I also can't afford that. I only keep the long hair because it is pretty much my last shred of being trans. I am tired of being trans. I wish I never brainwashed myself." So we learn this as we see the first victim of what Westman did. 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel killed. His father spoke today.
Yesterday, a coward decided to take our 8-year-old son Fletcher away from us. Because of their actions, we will never be allowed to hold him, talk to him, play with him, and watch him grow into the wonderful young man he was on the path to becoming. Please remember Fletcher for the person he was and not the act that ended his life. Give your kids an extra hug and kiss today. We love you, Fletcher. You'll always be with us.
Fletcher's killer, Robin Westman, at 17, tried to turn into a girl. His mother signing off on the paperwork to change his name from Robert. This mass shooting, which left 2 little kids dead, is now part of a growing trend in this country. Trans mass murderers, exposing a pandemic created by the American left and the woke and junk science that they have created to support it. Our most vulnerable are victims to a clear agenda, where kids are transitioned and mutilated rather than treated for mental illness and depression. Think about this. Nearly 3 million people in the United States now identify as transgender. They don't agree with the body that they have. A quarter of them are mentally ill children, indoctrinated for mostly political reasons by people who sound like this.
Wish everybody a powerful, impactful, safe, and happy Trans Day of Visibility.
You are exceptional. Please know that you are loved and you are not alone. Trans youth are kids, and they should be able to spend their time being kids.
To parents of transgender children, affirming your child's identity is one of the most powerful things you can do to keep them safe and healthy.
I think being trans is something that's very beautiful and powerful.
We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people. Trans people belong here. We need trans people. We love trans people.
Idiocy. When the trans issue turned political, we found serious trouble. Democrats looking to create a new victim class turned trans kids, or kids that think they're trans, into political weapons, aligning with the broader trans agenda, which is Marxist in nature, and like any other agenda, wants more members, wants new members, wants young members. Suddenly, Democrats were demanding puberty blockers, hysterectomies, and mastectomies for little kids. They told trans kids anyone denying them these things didn't believe that they had the right to exist. How sick is that? Are we surprised that these mentally ill people are going on shooting sprees after they've been told all this? They've radicalized and enraged mentally ill people largely because it was good for their politics and their political agenda. Trans people are brainwashed to believe that conservatives, that churches, are a threat to their existence. Are we surprised they react in this way? A threat because they don't feed into their mental health disorder by cheering it on, by exacerbating the problem, by mutilating their body. Yeah, they're the bad guys. Robin Westman realized she was the victim of this agenda too late. 60% of trans people have at least one diagnosable mental health condition. I'm sure it's far higher than that. These are things that they don't want you to know. Think about what they just did in the UK. They just banned these surgeries on kids, the ones that they're talking about here in the United States, the ones that these politicians push for every day, to affirm them. As far as the motive for what happened this week, police said this today.
The shooter expressed hate towards almost every group imaginable. The shooter expressed hate towards black people. The shooter expressed hate towards Mexican people. The shooter expressed hate towards Christian people. The shooter expressed hate towards Jewish people. In short, the shooter appeared to hate all of us. The shooter's heart was full of hate. More than anything, the shooter wanted to kill children, defenseless children.
So full of hate and anger. But as we saw, it was certainly directed in one place, a conservative Catholic school, a place that a trans person would see as a threat, a place that a trans person would probably hate. The messages on Westman's weapons, "Where is your God?" One of them right there on a clip. He was seen on video shooting a target of Jesus Christ. The FBI director sharing more details of his hate-filled ideologies, posting that the suspect had anti-Catholic and anti-religious references in his manifesto and on his firearms, hated the Jews and called for violence against the President of the United States as well. A standard sample platter of today's radical American left agenda was all over his guns, all over the clips. And with that, the media conveniently becomes unable to do what they do all the time, which is speculate on a motive, which is still a mystery, according to the New York Times. On Wednesday night, Minneapolis's mayor said this.
Anybody that is going to use this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any community has lost touch with a common humanity. I feel oftentimes in these instances there's this desire to villainize a group, regardless of what group or background, gender. You know, the bottom line is that kids got killed.
Nobody is villainizing the trans community. It is the people who've indoctrinated the trans community and trans kids that are the problem, people just like him. Democrats are stoking fear and rage into the mentally ill in our country, and then screaming for gun control when they lash out. All of this is largely done for political gain, again, to create another victim class, while demanding Americans remain intentionally blind to the very obvious danger that they have manifested. Jamie Reed is a whistleblower on gender clinics that are mutilating kids. Chloe Cole is a former trans kid who detransitioned. And Jamie and Chloe, good to have you both on. Jamie, I want to start with you. You worked in a pediatric transgender center for years. You blew the whistle after witnessing what went on there. I want you to tell us about that and how much damage you think that this movement, that this agenda has done to our kids.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on tonight.
Sure.
I did work in a pediatric gender center for close to 5 years, and what I saw was harming occurring towards the patients and their families. And so this is an ideology that promotes a medical pathway. That pathway, in its eventuality, will lead to the harm of that physical person. And I also saw, when it comes to pediatric patients, similar to this shooter, was transitioned socially as a child. You see the parents are now divorced. Mom is apparently fled to Florida. We saw that families also get torn apart and ripped apart by this ideology. This is something that has destructive pathways across multi-levels of our society.
That's well put. Chloe, the number of trans kids in recent years has skyrocketed. You were one of them. Why is it happening?
I think that right now it's just the perfect storm of it being a social media trend, and I think I think, infringing on all of some of the natural formative experiences and distress that comes with growing into an adult and going through adolescence for a lot of children and a lot of teenagers.
Yeah. So
It's
you
also
think it's like a
these treatments.
contagion?
There's a lot of money that goes in and out of these clinics that perform these treatments on young people like me, and a lot of interest groups and politicians who have capitalized on it.
You think there's a lot of agendas at play, and it's also become kind of like a social contagion?
Absolutely. It is a social contagion, and in every single way, it is completely ideological. It is antithetical, not just to science, but also to God's beautiful creation of the human design. And going against it and going the way that, and encouraging these children and these young people not only to go against the way that their bodies naturally are designed, they're causing them further, an already vulnerable group of people who often already have mental health comorbidities and distress and trauma in their lives. But on top of that, they're also telling them that the entire world is against them, that there is a war, there is a genocide being waged against transgender people. It's telling its followers that there is a whole concerted movement to eradicate transgender people from the population. When you're being told that the whole world is against you, that it hates you, what won't you do to fight back?
Jamie, speak to that, and also, I think one interesting, question that there is asked out there is that they say that, 50 years ago, we said the same thing about gay people. This is what trans people always fight back with. They said that trans was a mental health disorder 50 years ago, or gay was a mental health disorder, and now we're saying the same thing about trans. I see them very differently. How about you?
Yeah, let me take that apart quickly. First of all, I do believe Chloe is correct. We even have a research study that has come out of Canada from 2023 that shows that violent behaviors and this group is easily turned into one of these violent reactionary groups that we see. Some people liken this to a cult. I think that actually what we see is more of what kind of Chloe is talking about. These are very vulnerable young people who are told that they are being attacked and that they are being harmed. That is coming from not just the media, but also from a lot of our legacy organizations are telling them that we are all out to get them, when so many of us are just seeking evidence-based, real care for people who have distress around their bodies. I am from the community. I'm a lesbian. We do not see that this is the same issue. We do not see this as, gay 2.0. We actually see trans as intensely homophobic itself. We believe that most people who are targeted to transition are gays and lesbians who are being told your body is wrong, and the way to fix it is to actually transition. We see this as one of the most regressive homophobic movements, and we struggle so much to get those, I'm from the left, to understand that they are participating in one of the most homophobic processes that we can imagine. We are transing away gay people.
That is so interesting, but that tracks perfectly. It makes a ton of sense. I got to leave it there. Jamie Reed. Go. Yeah.
It's just
go ahead.
stereotypes.
Finish your thought. Yeah.
We base all of what trans is based on stereotypes about what a man or woman should be, and it literally is just targeting the people who don't fit stereotypes, and that's often gays and lesbians.
That makes a lot of sense. Jamie Reed, thank you so much. Chloe Cole, good to see you again. Thank you both, ladies. Good to see you. Andy No is a senior editor at the Post Millennial, has been following the uptick in trans violence and joins us now. Andy, good to see you. Yesterday's mass shooter joins a growing list of mass shootings carried out by people in the trans community, among other crimes, like the trans group called the Zizians that linked to 6 killings. Trans has become very violent in this country, hasn't it?
Yes, I think the public should be aware that the mass killing atrocity that happened yesterday by the trans shooter did not happen in sort of just a vacuum. It occurred in the context of years now of far left, leftist, and mainstream left-wing propaganda that is trying to mainstream grievance in ideology among the trans activists and the far left, to the point now where at every demonstration you go to for trans rights, they will make claims that they are victims of an ongoing genocide. When Audrey Hale committed the mass killing at the Covenant School in Nashville 2 years ago, there was a big protest several days afterwards at the state capitol, and people held up an extra finger for each victim that was killed, but they held up an extra finger because they included Hale as a victim in that. And that is the mentality of a very large segment of the activist radical left and the radical chic who support them in elite society in media.
Yeah, that's so well said. You wrote a book a few years ago on Antifa. You warned about the radicalization that's happening. There's the book right there, Unmasked. Warning, too, about the rise of what you call Trantifa. What is Trantifa?
Well, more than 5 years ago, I was observing, just based on the arrest data out of Portland, where I'm originally from, at these Antifa riots, that disproportionately the arrestees were trans, non-binary, or gender diverse. And by disproportionate, sometimes 15% at a night, sometimes 20%, sometimes upwards to a third of the arrestees. Now, there are a lot of trans people in the US, the numbers is growing, but it's not 30% of the population. So it was a phenomenon that I observed then, and I saw that in the time since, the propaganda messaging has become more radical, more extreme, to the point now where there are militias and sort of pseudo-paramilitaries that have formed around the United States by transgender identifying people, telling them that they need to fight back against the US government because of transgenocide. They're teaching them how to use deadly firearms weapons, and it's being encouraged by the mainstream media. You can look at reporting that has been done at the local and national level that has made it seem chic and cool for these anti-government extremists, who many of them deal with mental health comorbidities, by the way, and are on hormones, to take up firearms against their perceived enemies.
What a mess. What a mess. Andy, no, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you. All right, Trump looking to reinstate the presidential fitness test. The media despises this idea. We've got Sage Steele coming up next. Welcome back. The White House and our health departments, our new health agencies, want to make kids healthy in this country again. The kids are not healthy right now. Kennedy is bringing back the presidential fitness test, made famous by his uncle. You remember the sit and reach, the mile run, the pacer test? A lot of things that have fallen out of fashion over the last 20, 30 years as we've expected less and less and less from our society. Well, they're bringing them back. The staff at the Washington Post, as you might expect, kind of hate the idea. Watch a little social media clip that I saw on Instagram the other day. Take a look at this.
The fitness test that you probably suffered through during public school PE. It felt like public humiliation. And now Trump wants to bring the presidential fitness test, a potentially tougher version, to public schools.
The test always made me feel less than, because I was put in competition with a bunch of other people who I thought were better than me.
I feel like people would, hold it above people whether or not they did good on the fitness test.
I want to meet someone who actually enjoyed the fitness test. I don't believe anyone did.
I don't think the point was to enjoy it. I think it was trying to do what people kind of need, which is to be in shape and to be healthy. Sage Steele joins us now. Sage, good to see you again. Doesn't that video tell you a lot about our society today?
Yes, it's terrible. I'm sitting here. Hi, Rob. Good to see you. I'm sitting here thinking they're paid actors, right? They paid them to say that. No one is quite that pathetic. However, I think we know, to your point, society has certainly changed. Back in 2012, when Barack Obama said, no, this is too difficult. We don't like competition. It hurts people's feelings. I guess I didn't even realize it because I didn't realize they had taken it out. And then when President Trump said he's going to put it back in, and I looked up the reasons why Obama said it was time to take it out, the wussification of society, right? Competition is a good thing. And it isn't just about the fitness part. It is just overall being active. They're bringing nutrition back into schools as well. Yes, it's very symbolic of where we are today, but that is why he signed that executive order in July. This thing started, by the way, way back with President Eisenhower in the 1950s. Of course, it was Obama in 2012 who took it out, and now President Trump is bringing it back in. And hey, it's not even for us. We're old, right? It's for our kids who will be our age sometime. And to set the example now, we've got to do it, and I'm thrilled that they are.
Yeah, and it's very indicative of the left, which kind of, as you said, hates competition, kind of hates greatness in a way, hates that there's disparities in society, kind of just wants all of society to just kind of be this average blob that's more cohesive. You know, it's like they don't like the fact that we have fantastic athletes and then we have, you know, slow, fat kids at the bottom. They don't want anything to highlight that. So you can see why the Washington Post despises this so much. I want to take a listen to a clip from John F. Kennedy. This is after he implemented his presidential fitness test in 1961. Take a listen to this and listen to how different things sounded back then.
There is nothing, I think, more unfortunate than to have soft, chubby, fat-looking children who go to watch their school play basketball every Saturday and regard that as their week's exercise. I hope that all of you will join, and everybody in the United States, to make sure that our children participate fully in a vigorous and adventurous life.
That's something, I mean, that's wild to hear. I mean, that's John F. I mean, I'd love it because, you know, it's like that. You need a little bit of sting in society to kind of say, hey, let's shape up here. And you used to be able to say stuff like that.
Yeah, you did, but if anybody can begin to say stuff at that level about kids, you know who it is. 45 and 47, the guy on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue as we speak. I think, again, the softness that has been taught is what is my concern. Like, we can crush it and make fun of them, but deep down it is crucial for us to address this, the mental health part of it. Certainly it affects academics as well. It isn't just about being physically fit. It does promote strength overall, and then growing into adulthood. Isn't that what we need as a country? These young men and women are going to be in the military potentially. Overall, our economy, the lessons that are taught through physical fitness are endless. And if you look at just the numbers, the obesity rates, overall health of our children, it is scary what we've become as a country. So again, competition is a good thing. And you know what else is good? Failure. Yeah. When you fall on your face and maybe you don't meet that benchmark for the mile run. I know I didn't at first, but I didn't want to be embarrassed the next time, so I worked on it and I got better. And we need to continue to push kids to do just that. Get back up, try harder, because that will stay with them no matter what they choose to do later in life.
It dives right into the participation trophies and everything else. I mean, we've raised kids so coddled and so protected from any possible feeling, any negative feeling, any failure. It's like, how are they ever going to exist in the real world if they don't go through that as kids? When they become adults, they're going to have a mental breakdown when they can't accomplish something that they need to accomplish. I mean, how is that possibly good? It is interesting. And then as far as the kids, I mean, you see this. I mean, they point out how overweight and how unhealthy our children are, how many, you know, pre-diabetic, all of these issues, and the left is furious at that, and furious at Kennedy and our health agencies for pointing this out, which I think is so twisted.
You know, it's interesting, too. First of all, as a mother, my 3 kids are in college and now out of college. They started to do away with gym class. And it was, again, because of feelings quite often with this type of topic with, you know, measurements and making sure you're in enough shape to perform whatever activity, but also because the locker rooms, and that can be uncomfortable if you know, okay, I get it. My requirement for my kids, Rob, was for each of them, you have to play a sport, at least one, all year long, even in the summer. So I do think at home, it does start there. And as parents, we have to require that of our kids. It doesn't mean you need to go out and get a full ride scholarship to a D1 school, but you absolutely must be active. Secondly, I don't think we appreciate enough the mental health aspects of being active, of being physically fit. And then with the unfortunate topic that we've been talking about all day today and yesterday after what happened in Minneapolis, mental health is part of that issue. It's the #1 part of that issue with these school shootings as well, isn't it? And these kids, quite often, when you look at the history of these school shootings, the type of kids that are doing this, sadly, aren't in sports, aren't active in other things.
Yeah.
So this all ties together, and it is so much bigger than just getting someone out to run the mile.
I said, yeah, I said yesterday, you know exactly who these trans kids are because we've always had them in school. I had them in my school. It was the loners, the kids that didn't they didn't meld with everyone else. And the kids I always really felt bad for because you could just tell that they couldn't fit in, and you kind of wondered what was going on in their life that made them that way. And it was always a sad story. Now, today, I think those kids are trans. And I think that they've been captured by an agenda that is really dangerous, that finds vulnerable people that are looking for a place to fit, and they say, oh, I'm trans. They go to this. And then their lives get demonstrably worse, and it's all cheered on by the left and by politicians that are telling them that, yeah, get a hysterectomy when you're 13 years old.
And by the teachers, by the administrators, by the parents who are afraid to say, you know what, Johnny? You need to speed up a little bit. You need to run a little bit harder. I mean, everybody is afraid to hurt feelings or to address the issue at hand. That kid who shot up that school yesterday, don't tell me that there were no signs at all, that nothing was noticeable, whether it's from the mother, from siblings, from administrators at the school. He was 23 years old. So everybody is tiptoeing around all of these issues that are pretty basic. And now look what's happening. Certainly at that level, the absolute worst, but also just the overall health of our kids. And it does continue. If these kids aren't shown the way to do it by us, then their kids are also going to be unhealthy. And then we continue to have these health issues. Like, it's a terrible domino effect, and I'm so thrilled that the president is bringing it back, 12, 13 years after Obama got rid of it. It's coming back. It's the right thing for our kids and for our country.
If you want to have a great country, it certainly is. And Sage Steele has 3 kids in college, and you look like you just got out of college 10 years ago. That's pretty impressive. Good to see you, Sage.
Makeup, Rob. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, right. Ain't makeup for that. Have a good weekend, Sage.
Good to see you. Thank you.
All right. After ignoring her for the first term, Vanity Fair offers Melania the cover. She reportedly laughed at the offer. Got that next with Rick and Ed.
Speaking, unruly. The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well.
This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
All right, like nearly every other fashion magazine out there, Vanity Fair, owned by Condé Nast, is run by rabid leftists, mostly liberal women and gay men that live in New York. Vanity Fair hates the Trump family, has for 9 years, and gives sycophantic praise to their heroes like AOC, Breonna Taylor, Beto O'Rourke, Lizzo, and Stephen Colbert, just some of the recent covers you can see right next to me. But they never had any interest in the hottest first lady in American history over at Vanity Fair. They never wanted to talk to Melania Trump, put her on a cover in the first term. I mean, what's not to like? This is Vanity Fair. That recently changed when the editor decided to float the idea here in the second term. And the staff went nuts, some saying they'd walk out the effing door and the idea sickens them. But it appears that Vanity Fair took the shot anyway at Melania. Fashion source close to her telling Page Six that she actually laughed at the Vanity Fair request in July and rejected it immediately. I don't know if we should be surprised. Here's how Vanity Fair has covered her husband in recent years after he won the election in November. This was the cover, a photo of Trump in court, and then the criminal cases and impeachments, and then saying 4 more years, the 47th president of the United States. In the Russia hoax days, how Russia mercilessly played Trump for a fool. He and his coterie of idiots, nihilists, and opportunists were the perfect prey for Putin's spell. Vanity Fair. They've peddled every other Trump hoax as well. The very fine people in Charlottesville, dictator on day one hoax, and labeled Trump America's Hitler at one point. Great magazine. And in Trump's second term, Molly Jong Fast writing, Donald Trump is projecting panic, not power. Great picture of Molly. N2 hosts Rick Leventhal and Ed Henry join us now. Ed, we'll start with you. The rejection and just the idea that Vanity Fair finally came around to have this beautiful woman maybe on their cover, and then they get shot down. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I love the cover you put up where they had indictments and fake impeachments and fake indictments, I should say, and charges, and the 47th president, because he always gets the last laugh. And I think the broader point is, don't put her on the cover. They're still winning. don't support Donald Trump. He's still winning. And it actually reminds me of one of my favorite stories from President Trump's first time in office. He had a bunch of corporate leaders in the Oval Office, and one of my friends was there, and it's a great private moment. The official portrait of the First Lady arrived. You know, they put this up in the White House and maybe in federal buildings and stuff. And my friend was there, and he said the President Trump held up the photo and said, "She's looking pretty good. This ain't Martha Washington, boys," right? And he's basically saying, as you said, my wife's really hot. Okay? And all these corporate leaders are like, this guy is wild, right? But you know what? He's right. He has the laugh. Don't put her on the cover. You know what? He knows he's got a hot wife. And I don't mean to. She's also a smart woman. She speaks like 4 more languages than I do. So she's smarter than I am. She's internationally accomplished. And the left, you know, they underestimate this woman at their peril.
Yeah, no, and then she is a knockout. I mean, when you and in person, it's just like she's tall and it's just like she's like intimidating. You're like, holy cow, like that's her. It's just it's quite a moment when you meet her in person. It ain't Martha Washington, and it ain't any other first lady we ever had either. Rick, but I mean, the funniest thing is that if they had put her on the cover, well, I think maybe what they realized back in July when they offered it was that they could sell a ton of magazines, which is something that Vanity Fair never does anymore.
Rob, I think you're smitten. I really do.
Yeah,
you are smitten. I love that you I love that you call her the hottest first lady in history. God bless you.
Oh, it's not even close.
She is hot, but more importantly, to Ed's point, she's smart. She's no dummy, and she knows what this magazine is all about. And for the record, I did used to read Vanity Fair back in the day. They had some pretty good, strong investigative reporting back in the day. I haven't read it in many, many years, in part because, like so many other things, the magazine is very, very woke. And her saying, nope, sorry, is the last thing that most women in her position would do. The cover of Vanity Fair? Are you kidding me? That's a big deal. Or it used to be. But she's not interested. Good for her. And you know what? You're right. They're winning, and they can just keep riding off into the sunset as winners.
Yeah. And then why would she help them sell more magazines? I mean, it's like, why bother with what they've done to the family? I want to talk real quick before I let you guys go about the bruise on Trump's right hand that we've seen the media going nuts over. If you're on X, you see it all over the place. Everybody's talking about this bruise on the hand. The people that never said anything about Joe Biden are just obsessed with the right hand. Accounts writing that Trump is not well, all of this other nonsense. Ed, you know, it is funny that you have them just praying that something happens to this president after what they did with Joe Biden and all that they ignored.
It just exposes the hypocrisy. I've been around him enough to see that he's very healthy, almost 80 years old. He goes faster and harder than any of us. You know, the hours he works, runs his own staff into the ground, which is funny because remember when the Biden people used to say, oh, man, this guy Joe runs circles around us. And that was a lie. This is actually true about the president. So I have to admit, I hadn't seen those tweets because I've been ignoring what. So I think there's some explanation about, you know, like a needle that might have gone into his hand for normal, you know, treatments and things. So they turn it into a big mystery when, as you say, they didn't raise even a basic question about the guy we had in there the previous 4 years wasn't there physically or mentally.
Yeah, and I mean, again, he's 79 years old. We know people are going to have issues, Rick. And I mean, it's the funniest thing is that they're ignoring the fact. I mean, we watched the cabinet meeting the other day. I remember looking up at the TV, and I just looked at my producer, and I just go, is he still going? Is this cabinet meeting still on television? Yeah. And he talks the whole time, and he answers a million questions every day. It's unbelievable. Go ahead.
Yeah. He's the Energizer Bunny. The guy barely sleeps, and he works when he's not sleeping. He works. He's cutting deals. He's talking to people. He's making things happen. He's writing his executive orders. And, oh, wow, look at his hands. This guy isn't well. Are you kidding me? Joe Biden was tripping on stage, tripping up and down the stairs. He could barely finish a sentence. He was shaking hands with the air. He was like looking off in the distance. He was lost. And they didn't think that was a problem, that the president of the United States wasn't all there, was clearly in steep decline. And yet Donald Trump has a little bruise on his hand from some minor condition that, you know, people his age might get. Not a big deal. Let's calm down and focus on the actual work that he's accomplishing every single day. It's a remarkable story, and more people should tell it.
It is comical to see the behavior and the hypocrisy, as Ed said. Rick and Ed, good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Great to see you.
New reporting from the New York Times likely means big trouble for John Bolton. We're going to dive into that next with Congressman Byron Donalds. All right, welcome back. After the feds raided John Bolton's home and office, Washington erupted with claims that Trump had weaponized the DOJ. And reporters who cheered on the indictments against Trump as he campaigned for the White House a couple of years ago were mortified that Trump might consider getting even. But new information from the New York Times shows there's plenty there on Bolton, in fact. The Bolton investigation, quote, began to pick up momentum during the Biden administration when U.S. intelligence officials collected information that appeared to show that he had mishandled classified information. The United States gathered data from an adversarial country's spy service, including emails with sensitive information that Bolton, while still working in the first Trump administration, appeared to have sent to people close to him on an unclassified system. So he used unclassified system, and that gets picked up by our adversaries. Yikes. The emails in question were sent by Mr. Bolton and include information that appeared to derive from classified documents he had seen while he was National Security Advisor, allegedly in an effort to gather material to use for his 2020 memoir that was intended to be so damaging to the president. If true, this moves into a really dark realm here of what could potentially happen to Bolton, and Congressman Byron Donalds joins us now to talk about it. And sir, it's good to have you on. If Bolton let classified information slip to our adversaries while in the process of trying to write a book for his own personal gain, I imagine that's pretty bad news.
This is very serious if the allegations are true. Look, I think it's important to not really talk much about the investigation that's going on. But this has been an issue with certain individuals who've had access to the nation's secrets with having a security clearance. And look, sometimes when you turn on the news as a member of Congress, I have a security clearance, you would have read something that was in a skiff and it's on the news. And so this has been a concern for quite some time. What really needs to occur is that people are actually held accountable for this as opposed to it being swept under the rug. And so, if the allegations are true, Mr. Bolton's in serious trouble.
Classified information is so interesting the way Washington handles it, because they obviously went after Trump real hard. I mean, they raided the House, and that was a really big deal. But we knew that Biden must have taken classified information from long before he was president, when he had no right to it, because they found documents from like 30, 40 years ago when he was just a senator. So it's interesting how it's interesting how they prosecute that. I don't find any rhyme or reason to it.
Well, to be blunt, there really has not been much rhyme or reason to it. And let's be clear, when it comes to the phony investigation, the raid of Mar-a-Lago, presidents are allowed under the Presidential Records Act to take material with them when they leave the White House, because they are the executive branch. They go through a 5-year review with the National Archives of all the things that are in their possession. And a lot of those reviews actually get extended another 5 years because the President of the United States has access to the nation's secrets, so on and so forth. We know that part. But anybody else, vice presidents, U.S. senators, members of the House of Representatives, or employees are not allowed to remove classified information.
Yeah, exactly. It is interesting. I want to get real quick before I let you go. I want to talk about Cracker Barrel, which has been such a topic this week. Obviously, they flipped back on the logo. They realized they're doing the mea culpa. You worked for a Cracker Barrel. You've got a Cracker Barrel story. Tell us about that.
Well, first, I'm glad to see Uncle Herschel is back on the logo. That's a great sign for the company and for the country. I waited tables at Cracker Barrel for 4 years, my last 3.5 when I was in college. And it was the summer of 2001 where, several people who came at different points over the summer wanted to pray over me, pray over my life, and try to, really impart on me that there was a bigger plan in my life. At the time, had no idea, where they were going with it. But I remember one of my last tables, it was a revival, about 10 people and a pastor coming back from a revival. And they prayed over my life in the parking lot of Cracker Barrel. I gave my life to Christ, and the rest is history. So it does hold a special place in my heart. Glad to see that the ethos and the culture of Cracker Barrel Old Country Store is going to continue for a lot much longer in the United States.
That's cool. That's a good story. Congressman, good to see you. Byron Donalds, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gavin Newsom is annoyed, and the reason is hilarious. That's next.
I have 24 Trump 2028 hats. His folks keep sending me.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. The race baiter Al Sharpton leading a protest on Wall Street, calling for Americans to resist the Trump administration's rolling back of DEI.
No justice! No justice! No justice! No justice! What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? When do we want it? When do we want it?
The cancer of Al Sharpton, how much further the black community would be along if he were not in the picture, if he would just keep his mouth shut. The race hustler Ben Crump, also in attendance, melting down over the potential end of anti-white racism.
We have to be willing to speak up for our black children's future. And we have to be willing to fight for our black children's future. Because if we ain't willing to fight for our black children's future, we can't expect nobody else to fight for our black children's future. Are y'all ready to fight? Are y'all ready to fight? Are y'all ready to fight?
Yeah. And there you have it right there. And then they both got back in their limousines and headed back to their fancy neighborhood. And finally, a hilarious moment here. Gavin Newsom thinks elections are over. Trump's going to be a dictator for life. He has a hysterical reason why he believes this. Look.
I don't think Donald Trump wants another election. You think for a second you want... I have 24 Trump 2028 hats. His folks keep sending me.
The crowds laughed. Newsom didn't think that was going to be funny. The crowd couldn't help but laugh at the thought of the Trump White House just sending him Trump 2028 hats every couple weeks, sending him another hat. I love that. All right, coming up next, wild moment from the Mexican Senate. Finally tonight, wild video from the Mexican Senate devolving into violence after a heated debate after the centrist opposition party called for the U.S. military to intervene against the cartels operating in their country. Alejandro Moreno, the leader of the opposition party, confronting Gerardo Noroña of the left-wing ruling party, which naturally doesn't want Trump messing with their cartels, kind of like our left-wing leaders here in this country mysteriously protecting criminals from Trump's National Guard. Moreno can be seen slapping Noroña's neck, pushing another man to the ground when he tried to intervene. It got really ugly, and there have been complaints for bodily harm. Finity is up next. See you tomorrow night.